goodness I decided to go for British tea this morning.
Oh,
I really needed it.
there was a fantastic thing on social media a while back. There's a brand of tea in this country called Yorkshire tea.
Yeah.
And after the whole Brexit fiasco and everything,
Yeah.
someone said, I don't want any of that bloody, I've got my Yorkshire tea, I don't want any of that imported shit. And Yorkshire tea replied to him saying, you do realise it's just the name, we still grow it abroad.
Right. There is only one, from what I know, there is only one actually British cultivated tea that's actually grown in Great Britain, and it's very expensive.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not what you're going to be drinking every morning.
No, you ain't going to get it in packs of 200 from the local supermarket.
No, definitely not. So, at least you've got it.
Yes. Right.
So, with me today are one of my two favorite Whovians because Mike is having power issues at the moment. His neighborhood is without power, and so
sorry, I thought every megalomaniac in America was having power issues right now.
Oh, Mike's not a megalomaniac. He is a benevolent leader.
Yes.
So,
by the way,
how are you, James?
Given that when this is going out, wasn't it great when the aliens invaded during the inauguration?
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Oh God. Can it be? I was about to say, can it be 2025 already? But then I remembered.
Yeah, it's going to get worse.
It's been a weird month or 3 weeks, whatever it is, since we recorded.
Yeah.
And I would like to say, by the way, I'm on new medication, so if I'm a little spaced out tonight, it's because I'm on this medication that kind of like kicks in and kicks out almost at random. So it's like, yay.
Better living through chemistry.
Yeah, but it's legal prescription medication. But it's still fun.
Yeah, well, who says that prescription medication can't be fun?
Yeah. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm holding in there. One tiny, nugget of hope that I have is that I got Ziggy's K1 visa application in before the new year. So
yeah.
Supposedly, according to what I've read, they have to process it under the current regulations, not under whatever the orange dictator decides to, do.
Yeah.
Whenever he decides to do it.
I'm sure we all have our fingers crossed for you and kind of, legs crossed, fingers crossed, eyes crossed, And Mike has his wires crossed, so kind of...
Apparently, yeah.
Oh, right.
All right, so should we roll on to some Who news?
Yep, and I'm sure I can find some extra top-up bits to go with it as well.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I've found a couple good ones.
Okay.
So we've got everything we know about Doctor Who Season 2. So if you haven't seen the trailer, go watch the trailer. It's pretty decent. So we know that there's going to be a new companion following Ruby Sunday's departure at the end of Season 1. And an adventure, of course, with Joy, who we're talking about this episode. Although you'll find out when I do my recap of the special that Joy isn't really a companion.
I'm biting my tongue till I get to that bit.
Yeah, so so the Doctor's found a new traveling companion in Belinda Chandra, played by Virata Setu.
I haven't heard it said for a while, so I can't comment.
I think it's Setu. I'm not 100% sure, but if I got it wrong, Virata, please accept my sincerest apologies. So she last appeared as Monday Flynn in Season 1's Boom. So it looks like we're witnessing another case of spatial genetic multiplicity, or even something more sinister.
Or easier to say, hopefully.
Right. So, like many companions before, Belinda doesn't seem to have chosen a trip in the TARDIS, asking the Doctor to get me home. And as is often the case, Doctor doesn't appear to be in control, telling her that it may be the long way around, which will come back from Joy to the World.
And Twice Upon a Time.
In Twice Upon a Time, yes. So it does look like in the trailer that Belinda can be seen traveling and visiting various numerous worlds that don't quite look like Earth. So I'm guessing it's going to take quite a while before she gets back. So there's going to be some new adventures apparently. So anti-gravity explorers, flying saucers, real-life cartoon characters climbing out of cinema screens, and the Doctor facing new threats and troubles across new alien worlds, universes, and of course planet Earth. People to save, including terrified cinema goers and people literally clinging on for their lives in zero gravity.
And Mrs. Flood is in the trailer.
Yes. So that was the next part. Mrs. Flood, Anita Dobson, is back, and she's ditched the snowy outfit and an umbrella seen in Empire of Death for opera glasses, coolly appearing amongst the crowd of panicked people. I mean, as Mrs. Flood does. So, yeah, it looks like there's some interesting stuff going on. There will be returning friends. Of course, Kate Lethbridge-Stewart will be back, as well as Shirley Ann Bingham and in Unit. And it appears that they have continued on with the tradition of hiring Doctor's companions, as we can also see Ruby Sunday in Unit, having been hired
apparently Mel is returning still.
Yes, that I did hear. They don't mention it in this article, but I saw another article that said that it's very likely she will be back in this,
I think Bonnie has
season.
self-confirmed it, so I think we can take it as 99%.
Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't want Mel to come back anyway? She's been fantastic in the last season.
Yep.
And season before that. Yeah. But yeah, that's it. More new faces in the Hooniverse. So there will be a lot of interesting stuff going on. Apparently, Rose Ailing Ellis will be joining season 2, and has also sparked a lot of buzz amongst fans. It's yet to be revealed who the East Ender star and winner of 2021 Strictly Come Dancing will be playing, but it's probably okay for the upcoming season to maintain a few mysteries for now.
It'll be a first if Russell T Davies can maintain a few mysteries.
Right. Yeah. It depends on, who books him for which interview and how much he decides to spill.
Yes.
Secondly, 50 years of the Fourth Doctor. So December 28th.
We are recording this one day after the anniversary.
One day after, yes. Tom Baker debuted as the Fourth Doctor. Tom, we salute you. You're iconic and have stood the test of time and Time Lord alike. If you would like to learn more about Tom, please go back to Season 1, Episode 11 of this show and get an in-depth discussion all about the Fourth Doctor. And yes, I would like a jelly baby. Thanks.
The post where I am is terrible. So I think kind of if I were to post them to you, they would turn up as jelly OAPs again.
No, I'll just order off of Amazon. Yeah. It's always hit or miss, but you know every once in a while you get a fresh batch. So what else did you have news wise for us? Right,
I got four things. I got four things. One or two of them are rumors. The other two are definite.
So if you haven't heard a rumor by noon, start one.
Yeah. Right. So we'll start with the rumor. Okay. Spread by the actor involved. So Sylvester McCoy has hinted, and it is only hinted, we don't know the full extent, that they may not be done with past Doctors just yet. Now, we don't know if this means that we will get another Tales from the TARDIS season, whether or not they'll be kind of like that weird the mind place thing.
Yes.
Whose name is, I'm on medication, just forgive me tonight. So
the memory TARDIS?
Not the memory TARDIS, no, I'm thinking the one from Power of the Doctor, where all the previous...
yes. And I'm blanking.
The bridge thing.
Yes.
Anyway, so he has hinted, and it is only a hint, that they may not be finished with past Doctors yet, but we do not know in what capacity.
I think it's a safe bet to always assume they are not finished with past Doctors, even when they have passed on.
Yeah.
They've come back. So never count a Doctor out, because they will come back.
Yeah. We might have a brief mention of AI at some point, I think, tonight. But, yeah.
I hope they don't do it that way. I think the way that they handled with David Bradley stepping in for William Hartnell. I think that was fantastically done. David is, I mean, he's not William Hartnell.
No.
But he does a damn good job of playing William Hartnell.
Yeah. So anyway, the other interesting one on the rumour front, and again, it's only a rumour, but it was spread by RTD. See previous comment about spoilers. Yes. He did an interview on... so, if you're British and you're watching this, please just shut your ears for 30 seconds whilst I make the biggest lie possible. We have a really high-quality interview show called The One Show. It's awful. It's absolutely bloody awful.
Yes.
But they do Doctor Who stuff occasionally. Russell T Davies was on there, and he was talking in part about Joy to the World. But he did let drop that season 2 might be sooner than we were expecting.
Oh.
So there has been a long-standing rumour that season 2 is going to be earlier this year than it was. Earlier in 2025 than it was in 2024.
Right. Yeah, because it's still not this. It's still not that year yet. It's still this year.
But it will be that year.
But it will be that year by the time this comes out.
Yes.
Yes. Wibbly wobbly tiny
wimey. There's been a long-standing rumour that it'll be March. Whether or not that is the case. That would also tie in with various suggestions that it was changed at the last minute in 2024 to tie in with the Eurovision Song Contest and, of course, the musical episode and everything. So it's an interesting one on the time front. Basically, we should... I'm just saying, so when you're watching this, we should know within the next month whether or not it is going to be March, because, of course, Doctor Who magazine will start their previews and will start giving episode titles and stuff like that yet. Nothing so far on the episode title front or anything. So, yeah. Season 2 is definitely on the cards. There are still all kinds of question marks over Season 3, but as they are not even in the rumour category, they're in the fan speculation category. I think we will... yes.
Yeah, the fans have been wrong quite often, so...
Yeah. Okay, and we have 2 major merchandise pieces of news.
Ooh.
So...
love me some merch.
We'll go with the vaguely surprise one, which was cocked
Not
up
another
on
sonic screwdriver.
No. Anyway, worse, it's a reacting vibrator.
Ooh.
Right.
I don't know how you consider that worse, but okay.
I'd rather it wasn't. Rather it didn't wait to react. Yeah, this has been the month for cocked up press releases. And we suspect
it's been the year for cocked up everything.
Yeah, we suspect that there was a little bit of miscommunication between the BBC and various merchandise sites, because both of the big merchandise release announcements were put on things like Amazon and other sales sites before they had been announced.
Yeah, that's not good.
And yeah, then they were taken down, then they were put back up again, and it's been a whole clusterfuck of everything. Right. So, first off, the next animation has been announced.
Ooh.
Okay, it is a William Hartnell story called The Savages.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Now, I'm not going to say too much about the plot and everything, because it's one of the stories that, because it is missing, and therefore that's why it's being animated, it's kind of one of those ones that an awful lot of people, it's on the episode story list, but you ask people what the plot is, and it's like, it's because basically it's a kind of a very kind of slow burner, underplayed one, and although it has a couple of really important plot developments in, they go under the radar as well. But yeah, basically we are back to 2D animation, so we're not doing the bizarre off-the-wall 3D animation that we had for the Celestial Toymaker.
Right.
But that only really worked for the Celestial Toymaker because of the story it was telling.
Yeah.
It's a William Hartnell story. You have got Stephen Taylor, who is the space pilot, and you have Dodo, who is
Oh, nice.
there.
There.
so-
Just there, huh? Dodo's
Dodo.
doing the best they can.
Dodo is right. The reason I'm kind of being a bit cunning, because the Savages comes from the third season of Doctor Who, as in season 3, William Hartnell style. You know, and there were a lot of behind the scenes problems going on during this time. The Celestial Toymaker was massively hit by the complete disasters going on behind the scenes. And yeah, this basically carries on through to the Savages and into the next couple of stories. It is certainly a story that is worth, watching when it comes out. Because, as with the Celestial Toymaker, it marks yet another attempt, allegedly, of the production team trying to off William Hartnell.
Well,
Needless to say, they don't succeed.
right.
But, yeah, Celestial Toymaker was their first attempt. The plan was that if they did get rid of Hartnell, when the Doctor came back from being invisible, he would be someone else, and Stephen and Dodo would have to kind of, figure out if it was him or not.
Figure it out, yeah.
There is a plot thread in The Savages that ties in with this myth, but I'm just going to leave it at that. Savages is also notable for two other things, one of which has made it into the animation, one of which hasn't. The first is the title is The Savages, except that wasn't the original title.
Oh.
The original title was The White Savages.
So, guys in red hats, I'm guessing?
No, but the thing that hasn't made it into the animation, which is a great source of controversy, because there are a number of William Hartnell stories for which no colour photographs exist of behind the scenes.
Right.
And a number of actors and actresses are wearing, how shall we put this, slightly dark makeup. Now,
okay.
Peter Purvis has said he remembers it as being golden makeup. But
in black and white, gold would turn up as very dark.
Yeah. So there is a certain amount of controversy about just exactly what makeup some of the characters were wearing.
Well, there's a reason that like the Cybermen were silver, because that plays much better on black and white than gold would play on.
And in the animation, they have gone for regular skin tones.
Okay.
So they've kind of, But the bizarre thing is,
hedging their bets.
Apparently, it is going to be a 3-disc release, which is baffling a lot of people, because we can't think what the hell there is that's going to justify 3 discs for the Savages.
I wonder if it's behind the scenes notes and extras and stuff, you think?
Well, even with the Celestial Toymaker, they only managed to do 2, and there's very few behind the scenes photos that exist. Very few of the
some good interviews.
Yeah, well, very few of the cast still exist.
Yeah.
I think Peter Purvis is basically the only one. However, there have been a few interesting archival finds over the years which have not yet come out on Blu-ray. So there is the possibility that there might be a third, more eclectic bonus disc than usual.
Well, I mean,
right.
I'm all for it.
And
the more bonuses, the better.
Yeah. No, bonus is one word, not
bonuses. Bonuses. The more bonuses, the better.
Yeah. Is a bonus just a really, really kind of calcium anus? Anyway. Yes! Got the timing right.
God damn it.
Right, okay. And the second big merchandise release is the one that was accidentally released, A, by the person, one of the people involved with it, but B, again, was put up on the for sale sites before it was announced. The next season coming out on Blu-ray has been announced, and it is season 7. Now, again, if you are not familiar with the seasons of Doctor Who, this is another turbulent one. There are only 4 stories in season 7. but 3 of them are 7-parters. It was a very different season to all of the ones surrounding it.
Yeah.
And it is almost like there is a soft reboot after Season 7 for Season 8. Season 7 is grittier. It is kind of more industrial. And yeah, it starts the Jon Pertwee era. It starts his exile on Earth. And again, there are not that many people still around. So along with the admittedly very impressive extras that came out on the DVDs of the story, they have cleaned up the pictures for at least one of these stories. So although there was a sort of cleaned up release version of Doctor Who and the Silurians, yes, that is its proper name, they have re-cleaned it up using brand new technology that wasn't available at the time of the DVD. So we'll be seeing that in crystal clear clarity for the first time in a long, long time. There are rumours that Inferno is going to get a bit of a makeover as well. Spearhead from Space has already had a solo Blu-ray release, so it'll be interesting to see if they do anything with that one. And that just leaves Ambassadors of Death, which is an interesting one in terms of what exists in what quality. So fingers crossed they have not just found a way to do it kind of, better than the DVD. They've managed to pull a rabbit out of the hat and managed to do it at an acceptable quality. Yeah. So, in 2025, that means we will be getting The Savages, Season 7. Presumably, we will get the Season 2 box set for Shooty Season 2. We already have the William Hartnell Season 2 box set. Be careful what you order off Amazon. We will be getting the War Games in colour. Whether or not Joy to the World will get a standalone release as Church on Ruby Road did, we don't know. But yeah, we already know a big cluster of disc-based releases for 2025. And yes, given all the discussion and the debate and other things that have happened with Doctor Who Online, buy the physical releases.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Sounds like an interesting start to 2025.
And by the way, Season 7 is one of my all-time favourite seasons of Doctor Who from the last 60 years. Buy it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I'm not going to buy it. I've already got it.
But you'll be able to see the bad false teeth in higher definition quality.
That's okay.
Anyway, right.
Anyways, on to our main topic, as alluded earlier, and probably, I mean, if you clicked on this, you saw the title. So the topic we're discussing today is the Christmas special for 2024, Joy to the World. So here's my take on it. As Christmas specials written by Moffat go, this one wasn't terrible. There were some really fun moments, a couple of sad moments, some fantastic special effects. The thing that kind of sucked the joy out of Joy to the World was Moffat's ham-hatted storytelling. Seriously, has the guy never heard of nuance?
Because has the guy never heard of originality, which is what I'm going to kind of focus on. Yeah,
originality. So if you haven't watched it, What the Who is Wrong with You? It's been out for over a month now. Not now, but when you're listening, watching. Yeah,
I feel as though I should come in from the side and speak to my younger self, right, telling me what.
You're gonna have to go the long way around.
Yeah.
So, it's been out for over a month now. Anyways, from the title and the preview, you might think that Joy is the new companion, but that is not actually the case. The saving grace of this storyline, in my opinion, is that the year that the Doctor spent in the hotel room that Joy booked before she was whisked off by a future version of the Doctor, who strands his past self in the past and forces him to go the long way around to get back. During that year, the Doctor strikes up a touching friendship with the hotel manager, Sylvia, that helps him with his loneliness after Ruby's departure. And, it's probably one of the cutest, little filling time segments that I've seen in quite a while. I thought it was really well done. She's so likable, and the two of them together were were just a lot of fun to watch, in my opinion. Funniest moment from the special: Sylvia hands the doctor a plunger and tells him blockage in 28, and the doctor looks at the plunger in horror and says, is this armed? So
Yeah.
little poking fun at the Daleks there, so I could not help but chuckle at that. That was really pretty good. And the other little things like the microwave being bigger on the inside.
Is it not supposed to be?
Right. and the Mickey Mouse sonicking the broom, Sorcerer's Apprentice thing.
Yeah.
Or the mop, I mean.
It's a difficult one.
Yeah, that one, I think they could have left that little gag out.
Because
yeah,
it's just like he's stranded in 2024. Basically, that was a scene essentially venturing into the realms of magic, wasn't it?
Yeah, and like Sylvia looks at it and she's like, nope.
Yeah.
Like doesn't even comment. But I mean, being as Shooty is a Disney princess now, I guess he gets to use some of that Disney magic from Sorcerer's Apprentice and play Mickey for a little while.
Oh God, for me, this is such a difficult one to comment on.
Just I mean, let us know what you really think. Because, yeah, I mean, I wasn't over enamored with it. I would say, like I said, it's better than some of the Christmas specials Moffat has been involved in.
Okay, so the summary, before the very detailed takedown, is 90% of it reached the heights of mediocrity, 10% of it was offensively shit.
Yeah.
And
well, no, I'd say you're wrong. 9% was offensively shit, and then there's that 1% where it was, oh, that's a cute little nod for everybody to,
yeah,
to enjoy. There were some fun bits in it. I'm not gonna lie, even though, like I said, it was ham-handed and a little obvious. There were some fun parts in it.
More importantly, vast chunks of it were written using Control and C and Control and V.
True.
It is. I mean, it was given allegedly. I mean, when was it written? It was written and it was filmed before Shooty's first season was even shown. So I mean, it was made in 2023.
Yeah, and at that point, Shooty wasn't even really sure who the Doctor was at that point. Because it was early, and you can kind of tell that.
Yeah, I say you can tell. It was copy and paste of a lot of Moffat's kind of standard stuff. So you've got the inevitable time paradox shit to get the code, which sorry, that was just crap.
Yeah, no, it was. And then the thing that bugged me is, okay, he flew the TARDIS to the Time Hotel, left it in the lobby, and then used the rooms because they wouldn't cause paradoxes. I'm just not sure how that would work in a hotel full of portals to all times through all of history.
Yeah, and we'll get to that as the big plot hole.
Yeah, the TARDIS probably shouldn't even been able to be there.
Well, that's not even the big plot hole, but
but that's one thing that kind of bugged me, because you know how sensitive the TARDIS is about appearing in places that it's not supposed to be. In terms of copy and paste, let's start with the Moffat stuff. So yeah, you've got the everybody lives shit technologically kind of stuff from Silence in the Library. Yes.
You have got head rush. Woo! That's the most enjoyable thing about Joy to the World so far.
At the head rush.
Yeah.
I think that's your medication. I didn't get that.
No. So there's the obligatory time paradox. There is the kind of inevitable crude stuff. Yeah, the kind of the toilet gag and everything, which actually he did manage to make a little bit more charming than his usual stuff.
Yes.
the problem was, it wasn't just copy and pasted from Moffat.
Mm-hmm.
So the kind of the first thing is, cast your mind back to Kylie Minogue.
Mm-hmm.
When she basically self-sacrificed and then went off into that cloud of stardust.
Yes.
So we've got that bit from Voyage to the Damned.
Mm.
You've got the kind of, the Doctor having a go at the companion, or companion, because they're kind of, not behaving properly. Well, that's basically Donna.
Yeah. Well, and I will have to say also, that part bugged me. Like, I think Moffat was overly cruel in the writing that he used for.
And I'd say that's another
Yeah.
thing that I'm going to come to in a moment.
I didn't like that part of the special at all.
There were just so many bits that were familiar from other Christmas specials, but so there is a book from the kind of the early 90s called The Crystal Bucephalus, which is all about a time-travelling restaurant where people got to go into different eras of history and sample the delights of the food and everything like that.
Because of course.
There is also The Last Resort, which is a time-travelling hotel where people got to go into history. Oh, and the Doctor got to meet a clone of himself, got to meet various copies of himself. Yeah. It was, unfortunately, for people who are long-term fans of Doctor Who, just a little bit familiar.
It was.
And given that it was essentially written because Russell T Davies didn't have time to write it, I mean, if that was student homework, I'd say, "Oh, you did this last night, did you? It was due today."
Wikipedia?
The other problem I've got before the two massive problems, that scene where he's cruel to Joy and talks about, hotel room, that's you without the kind of the makeup and everything.
Yeah.
This is a problem that Moffat has got with Cod psychology. He is not a psychologist. Yeah. And if you ever watch his take on Sherlock Holmes, just called Sherlock, vastly inferior to Elementary.
Yes.
He has Sherlock making an awful lot of these instant deductions based on very little. That, strangely enough, turn out to be absolutely spot on, even though there are a good dozen or so other explanations or possibilities. Joy could be staying in that hotel because that's all she can afford.
It was a fairly nice hotel.
And so what? There is also the kind of saying that was the shittiest hotel. Bloody hell, I've stayed in worse than that.
Yeah, the one we stayed at when we went to go see Rocky Horror was worse than that.
Yeah. The Sixth Doctor, by the way, when he had his teenage sulky moment, he planned to be a hermit and live in a cave.
Right.
So yeah. Yeah, and bear in mind also, that hotel was in London. That's a really desperately bad place to abandon yourself. And that's going to be an interesting one for Season 2 of Shooty, because, of course, there is a Shooty Doctor living in the hotel right the way through 2025. So does this mean that the new companion is actually going to come from 2026, and we're going to be doing a 1-year forward time jump, as we did with Rose back in Series 1 of Eccleston?
That's a very good point, because, they probably shouldn't be going back. The Doctor probably shouldn't be going back to 2025 or 2024.
Yeah.
At all.
Right, on to the massive plot hole. And first up, I mean, it kind of ties in with the comment about
the code.
No. I mean, that's just time travel wank, which I have an entire set of notes for the trivia at the end.
What just bugged me was he still just made the code up.
Yeah.
And gave it to himself, and it wasn't the code. It couldn't have been the code. But it was the code because it worked. That was such a big stupid plot hole. It could they could have taken 5 minutes to show the Doctor finding the code in the future.
Yeah,
and
but
coming
it's
back.
Moffat. He had to put time paradox in because he is
Yeah, it's
obsessed
stupid.
with it.
Yeah.
But okay, so we've both agreed that actually Joy's hotel didn't look that bad. To be
No, I
honest.
would have stayed there.
A question I've asked a few of my friends online actually, and none of us can decide the answer. Was the Time Hotel supposed to be an expensive thing, or was it a cheap tourist trap?
I would I would say just looking at the lobby and looking at the clientele that were there, I would say it was meant to be an elitist kind of expensive thing.
Because apart from the fact that the staff working there didn't strike me as staff who would be working at an expensive hotel,
Uh, yeah, because what's his face was brick dumb.
yeah, I mean, he would have been fired with, because he couldn't interact with bloody I mean,
No.
but the key thing is, there is an entire hotel which can afford, what by the look of it, like hundreds of time portal kind of things.
I
And they
think
make,
thousands if you looked up.
yeah,
I mean, like
well,
the doctor
it
said,
depends how many
you
there
can
were
tell.
per ring.
Yeah, you can tell how this that guy was just not odd at all, and he's like you look up and
Yeah.
that's the first thing anybody would do coming into a hotel with a lobby that's that grand.
But the key thing is, and as I point out, time travel is available in 41
Right.
whenever. So why did they need to bother with the hotel? Why didn't Villain Guard just take a time machine back 65
Right.
million years, drop the case off, nip forward 65 million years, and pick it up again? I genuinely.
Other than maybe they were trying to stay off the doctor's radar by doing it kind of sneakily and hiding it behind the hotel.
I don't know. I just there was nothing in the story to me.
And they could have taken again another 30 seconds to explain. Oh, you guys are clever. You created.
You're
this
burying
hotel
it within the
and
time portals kind of
buried
thing.
it.
Yeah.
Buried it as just some insignificant thing.
Yeah.
At some point. Yeah.
And the other problem I have, and I'm going to try and be tactful, but I'm going to fail. Right. It starts with Boom, with Villain Guard.
Yes.
And the idea that basically one of Villain Guard's biggest clients is the church. So basically, pretty much anything Villain Guard are doing is to kind of further the aims of the church so that they can sell.
Right.
So basically, they take innocent people, psychically manipulate themselves, these people, into thinking that, yay, I'm going to blow myself up in order to further religion kind of thing. So
Right.
basically, at the end, Joy is turned into a religious fundamentalist suicide bomber. And the Doctor seems quite happy about this.
Yeah.
Because,
It's a little.
the
kinda
whole
weird.
point of that thing was, it manipulates the person's brain. How much of what Joy said at the end was actually Joy, and how much was the psychic manipulation kind of,
Yeah, it's really hard to tell if that was what she wanted or if that's what the Starseed wanted, that it wanted to be free of Villain Guard and not and not be used by this gigantic corporation. I mean, it was fair play. He did kind of make a character that was, all powerful but yet kind of sad at the same time and needed to get away from its creator.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there was different ways that could have been handled. Again, it's ham-handed. It's just really not nuanced at all.
No, as I said, basically it manipulates people into blowing themselves up on Villain Guard's behalf.
Right.
And it makes them think they're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And I was left very uncomfortable with that ending. It's just like,
oh yeah,
ooh.
No, it was not fantastic. I will admit. I mean that whole her leaving thing and becoming this this new all powerful star. If you were so pissed about your your creators and you knew that you're more powerful than them now, wouldn't you just kind of want to go after them and just say, "Oh, you guys are done"?
Yeah. And also, by the way, what the hell was that briefcase made from that could survive 65 million years?
Yeah, in a dinosaur's stomach.
Well, and also kind of like actually how it got from the dinosaur to that underground temple.
Well, they did explain that.
Did they? I must have blinked.
Yeah, it was a very short thing. It was like, oh, he puked it up, and then somebody came by, and of course it attached, and it became a religious artifact.
Yeah, but the dinosaur puked it up, and there are no humans around for 65 million years.
Well, I mean, how many times has the TARDIS sat for millennia in some place, and of course the TARDIS is the TARDIS. So
yeah, but as I said,
expect it to last.
I really didn't buy that briefcase. Kind of okay, yeah. I mean, I got the dinosaur puking it up a bit, but I didn't get the kind of how it then for 65 million years. Bearing in mind, it would have been buried under. If the dinosaur puked it up, it would be buried under. Anyway.
Yeah, we just don't know.
No. So it was 89% mediocre, 1% reasonably good.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sorry, I just found the end, as a lot of people did, quite offensive.
It was, a bit offensive, a lot sad, because we just at the end don't know if it was Joy or if it was the Starseed that
And also,
that was.
What can you tell me about Joy other than her mother died on Christmas Day?
Right, and again, it's like I said, all we know about her is the mean stuff that the doctor said to snap her out of that stuff, that spell, and again, I think there could have been a much better way to do that.
There
should have been a much better way to do that.
Has she left a family behind? Has she got a boyfriend? She was this kind of, as you say, she was publicised almost like the companion, but basically
she wasn't. She got
the name in the credits because she's a bigger actress than But yeah, also that hotel scene. That's what I meant to say. Oh yeah, do you remember Power of Three, the Matt Smith episode?
Yeah,
where the Doctor's forced to spend time on Earth waiting because he has to wait.
Right.
And there's also a big Thing-Is-You box set called Stranded, where the Eighth Doctor has to live out his life on Earth whilst he waits for the TARDIS to... anyway.
Control-C, Control-V.
Yeah, those are the bits that I was struggling to remember when I had the kind of the head rush earlier. So yeah,
it's like I said, it's not a great special. There are some fun moments. The special effects were very good. The effects team was on point. They did a fantastic job, as they almost always do.
Oh, definitely.
And Shooty did a good job reading the lines he was given.
And that's the problem. I'm hoping. The trouble is because they filmed season 1 and 2 back to back, so kind of it'll be interesting to see how he responds to this new companion. And of course, we do have Ruby in season 2 as well. Right,
and also another new companion, as we discussed earlier in the news.
Yeah, there's a lot coming up.
I think it's going to be kind of fun. I do kind of like the getting back to having more than one companion in a series run, because sometimes when the Doctor has the same companion over and over, it starts to get a little stale. I like the new companions coming in, the old ones kind of dropping in for a couple episodes and then back out. It mixes things up in a way that I think keeps it fresh. But it just
and that's actually the line that the New Adventures took in the early 90s.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the run, the companion who I've talked about quite a bit, Bernice Summerfield, she left the Doctor as a permanent companion, but dropped in and out.
Yeah.
As, and because she had a husband, she was having a life, and she occasionally just kind of popped in and out of the Doctor's life kind of thing.
If there's one thing I would really like RTD to do, is stop letting Moffat direct and write episodes of Doctor Who. I mean, seriously. Pull anybody else from Doctor Who to write an episode or write a special.
And
If you don't have time, don't foist it off into Moffat, because he just makes a mess out of everything.
yeah. And this is going to tie in with the trivia bit, because what is the one thing, as I said, that kind of like, Moffat is obsessed with?
Paradoxes.
Yeah. And, the new series has done an awful lot of them.
Oh, yeah.
Moffat is... I mean, I think at one point, one story was written out of time 3 times over by kind of, paradoxes unraveling sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But go back 60 years, and people say, oh, no, Doctor Who was much simpler then. And, well, actually, coming up, I have got a whole long list of Doctor Who classic style and Wilderness Years style where time travel gets very complicated.
Oh yes,
Okay.
I've read some of the books and listened to some of the things.
Yeah.
There are some storylines that get super complicated.
But
So let's roll into some Who Knows trivia.
yeah, because time paradoxes and time travel weirdness goes back to season 2,
Mm-hmm.
William Hartnell style. Season 2, William Hartnell. Most of the stories are fairly run-of-the-mill, but there is one in there called The Space Museum.
Mm-hmm.
The Space Museum has a really bizarre opening. The story doesn't quite work, but then again, what stories do when there's time travel paradoxes involved? And
True.
the First Doctor and his companions, Ian, Barbara, and Vicky, end up spending an episode in their own future where they discover that, and I'm going to be terribly tactless by this, they have been taxidermied to death to become exhibits in a space museum.
Nice.
And then the remaining 3 episodes of the story is them trying to change that potential future.
Mm-hmm.
But given that in the first season, God, I can't keep track of it anymore. Given that in the first season,
series, whatever.
Given that in first season, the line had been, "Oh, you cannot change history. You cannot rewrite history. Not one line."
Oh, that's a total bald-faced lie, because Doctor Who has done it from the very beginning.
No, actually, the Space Museum is the first time it does it. It shows a potential.
The first time on screen, right?
Yeah, I'm doing these in chronological order.
Okay.
Space Museum is the first time on screen that we see time actively being changed.
Mm-hmm.
More importantly, there's no big fuss made about it. It sets up the remaining 3 episodes, and as to whether or not, kind of like, you accept the reason behind it, you can believe and follow what's going on. I've tried to work it out. There's one bit I cannot get to work, and that's a bit involving a glass of water, William Hartnell, and a time loop that, quite frankly, you don't want to think about the biological repercussions of. Right.
Well, I mean, and that's just the beginning of the meddling with time. Speaking of meddling,
right?
We talk about paradoxes. The meddling monk.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a paradox-riddled storyline, but it was still good.
Yeah, and that again is season 2. That's the last one, the Time Meddler. And season 2 is available on Blu-ray. Season 2 stories are available individually as DVDs. Blah 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 blah. By physical releases. Anyway,
and they're fantastic.
Yeah. Right, one that you probably won't know too well is a season 3 story. Okay. Season 3 features a story called The Mythmakers.
I think I've seen it. I just don't remember.
No, you haven't seen it, because basically the episodes no longer exist. It only exists in audio.
Oh, well then I haven't seen it.
There are various fan reconstructions of it available, but it's one of the rare ones, and season 3, as I said, because of all the behind-the-scenes stuff going on, there's very minimal photographic references and everything. But basically it is set during the Trojan War. And the Doctor is separated from his companions. Companions end up inside Troy. He ends up outside Troy. So, of course, what is his solution?
Paradox.
Well, yeah, because basically he gets the idea for the giant wooden horse from the myth of Troy. It's a big bootstrap paradox episode, but again, unlike the Peter Capaldi episode where they do the big kind of pre-credits bootstrap paradox about Beethoven and the guitar and everything, they just get on with it. They just do it. And this is something that kind of like, yeah, you know, Classic Who doesn't make a big song and dance when it does paradox stuff. It just does it anyway, you know.
Right.
Pat Troughton didn't have too many paradox ones, so I'm going to go forward to a couple of John Pertwee ones. Again, available on Blu-ray box sets or individually as DVDs. First one is Day of the Daleks. Day of the Daleks has 2 paradoxes in it.
A pair of them.
A paraparadox.
Yes.
Yes. It opens. Now, this is an interesting one from behind-the-scenes issues as well as for plot issues. The first paradox is by messing around with the TARDIS console, which, of course, is the get-out clause for everything. The Doctor and Joe inadvertently see future versions of themselves. The idea had been that the story would end with the same scene, but from the other side of things, so the Doctor and Joe from the end of the story end up seeing the past versions of themselves. Kind of like Shooty turning up in the hotel room to tell them what's going on kind of thing.
Right.
The director wasn't keen on this because he said, you know, once the story is ended, we just want to end the story. We don't want then kind of, you know, extra scenes at the end and everything.
Right.
So in terms of the TV version, there's actually no payoff to it, but that scene was reinstated for the novelization. And the novelization expands upon the plot massively. It's a really good talking book as well, by the way.
Nice.
And within that story, the story that should have been bookended by the Doctor seeing his future self, thus knowing, therefore, that he was going to survive and everything, you know. There is actually a bunch of freedom fighters who come back from the future to try and change the past, but in doing so accidentally sort of make the future that they're in, which means that they set themselves up to come back to the... Yeah. Again, you know, they don't make a big thing about the paradox aspect of it, and there are interesting readings of the very end of the story. I'm currently putting together kind of like a theory about something for much further down the kind of the episode list sort of thing. But yeah, there are all kinds of ways you can interpret the ending of the story, and yeah, they just get on with it. They just do it. The cruelest one of all for me is another Third Doctor story called Carnival of Monsters. This is from season 10. And again, I don't want to give away too much, but it's part of the plot is a vaguely Mary Celeste type story. But at the end, the Doctor seemingly returns this equivalent of the Mary Celeste back to where it should have been. So does that mean that it was therefore no longer this Mary Celeste type equivalent? In which case, how did the Doctor know that it was a Mary Celeste type equivalent if it had never been a Mary Celeste type equivalent in the first place? There is a really nasty get-out clause for that one. And basically you watch it, you think, oh, happy, lovely ending, and it's like, oh shit, actually, for the story to work, the way for it to not be a paradox is for something really nasty to happen to some very nice characters. So that's an interesting one, and yeah, it's a bit of a bastard one.
Yeah.
The other Tom Baker, say, because the 80s didn't really do paradoxes too much, but the other Tom Baker one, which really does my head in, is Genesis of the Daleks. And again, this is seen as a classic story. So yeah, if you're kind of like, you know, you're dipping in and out of the classic Who, and you want stories that are, by most people, considered to be classic, Genesis of the Daleks is definitely up.
Oh, of course.
But again, without giving too much away of the plot and the ending, essentially the plot starts with the Time Lord sending the Doctor on a mission to wipe out the Daleks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hold on. If the Daleks get wiped out, then why would the Time Lord send someone back to tell the Doctor to wipe them out? Yeah. And
Yeah, doesn't make any sense.
Say the implications of the ending as well are they're very ambiguous.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those ones where, focus on the story, but not the paradox issue, because, it's got genuinely difficult implications.
Mm-hmm.
Because Dalek history before Genesis of the Daleks seems to be one thing, and then after Genesis of the Daleks seems to be another. So whether or not you want to believe that time has been completely rewritten, up to you.
Right.
But certainly nothing is the same afterwards, after Genesis of the Daleks. And Russell T Davies has also said that Genesis of the Daleks, because of the Time Lord thing, is actually the first lighting of the fuse of the Time War.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting one. Right. Into the Wilderness Years. And, there's some doozies in this.
Just a few.
Right.
100.
No. Actually, the actual paradox type ones are not that many. They're very big, and one of them starts an arc but never really kind of fills in the blanks. I'll get to that in a minute. Right. So, I've talked a lot about the Wilderness Years. The first one I'm going to mention is a book I've mentioned before called Time Worm Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a really fascinating story because, as I say, Time Worm Genesis, it was the first ever newly commissioned Doctor Who novel with the Doctor as the main character,
right?
With TV not a thing,
Mm-hmm.
And so you would think that they would kind of like go out of the way to keep the plot under wraps and everything like that. Kind of like, And I don't just mean in the preview that DWM did of the first book. I mean kind of like 8 months before the first book even came out. The Range editor basically detailed the entire plot in an interview.
So it's not just RTD.
No, it is not just RTD. And because because it doesn't form the big part of the novel, so I'm not spoiling the kind of like 95% of the novel. The book opens with the Doctor sent on a mission to discover this thing called the Time Worm.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the first book, he accidentally creates the Time Worm. It's a bootstrap paradox.
Yeah.
The book has got a bit of a bad reputation, but there is an unofficial fan audiobook version of it. HB WhoTube on YouTube, done by me.
Yeah, that's right.
And I actually thought it was quite fun. It is not as sexed up as people make out.
Mm-hmm.
There is a sexual aspect to it, but again, not in the way that kind of a lot of people think. There are far, far worse books in the New Adventures range for that, which one day we shall discuss when we do sex as our topic of the week or of the month.
I mean, we have covered some of that material, specifically with Ace. I mean, and how much they sexualized her.
Oh, believe me, there is so much worse. Anyway,
I can only imagine.
Yeah. And I say, it is, it's not brilliant, it is not terrible, but it is certainly not as bad as people make out. Right. And I had a blast doing the voices for it.
Nice.
Right. There were various attempts to launch Doctor Who on audio during the Wilderness Years.
Mm-hmm.
There were 2 complete radio dramas, not just like kind of self-contained one-off episodes. There were 2 complete stories. One was a 5-part story called The Paradise of Death. The other was a 6-part story called The Ghosts of Endspace. They are interesting curiosities. They are not the world's best stories. I am not going to say that they are perfect. I am not going to say that they kind of, revolutionised the idea of Doctor Who on audio.
Right.
But Ghosts of Endspace makes it into today's Who Trivia bit because it is a fairly well plotted on the time travel front aspect of it.
Well, we know who at least one of those ghosts is.
Who?
Adric.
No.
No?
Because on the slight boo-boo...
Well, he's a ghost. He's...
On the slight boo-boo side, both of them kind of exist in a gap in continuity between TV episodes that doesn't actually exist.
Right.
Oops. I mean, it's not like they were both written by the person who wrote and was producing the era that they're set... Oh, dear. I would say they're not particularly brilliant stories in terms of their overall plots, but Ghosts of Endspace has got a wonderfully kind of trying to piece together the different things that happen and work out what order they should happen in, because they don't happen in that order for the Doctor and Sarah Jane Smith. Right. And then we get to the BBC era of books. And I have 2 interesting examples for you.
Okay.
Yeah. One of them you know. One of them is called Festival of Death. It is by Jonathan Morris. It is basically a riotous 4th Doctor and Romana story which has them jumping backwards and forwards around through time. I'm not saying that Jonathan Morris is a one-trick pony, but he has used similar plot ideas in a lot of his big Finnish ones, featuring the 4th Doctor and Romana jumping backwards and forwards through time. But Festival of Death was the first, and yeah, seriously, it knocks everything that Moffat has ever tried to do completely into the bin. Festival of Death is...
Come on, that's not that hard.
It's just, I say, it's wonderful. Even I like it enough that I'm not going to sit down with a flowchart and work out and see if it works or not.
Right.
Because I know that some of Moffat's don't, because I've seen people who've done that, yeah.
A large portion of his don't.
Yeah.
Which is another reason I just don't like the Matt Smith era.
Yeah. Did you pronounce it era or era? Or both?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. But yeah, basically, Festival of Death is Jonathan Morris's first huge time-jumping story. Definitely seek it out. It is really well worth it. And if you can't find a copy of the novel, then yeah, he's done some 4th Doctor Big Finish audios with Romana and K9, which have got similar ideas at heart, but different kind of wrap-round plots around them. So it's not the same plot each time. Speaking of Big Finish, also I could do the other BBC one. Oh dear God, how could I forget Interference? Oh my God. Right. This is where I'm going to be very tactful, because I know that the author involved has been quite vitriolic to people who have criticised him in the past.
Oh, you don't want that.
He's also a fucking awful writer. Sorry.
Well, now you've done it.
Right.
Thankfully, he doesn't watch this program.
He's basically distanced himself from Doctor Who now anyway.
Oh, good.
About 4 times over, he's sworn he's never writing for Doctor Who again.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he's one of those.
One of those, yes. But he did a 2-book... It's in Doctor Who history, it's the only time a novel was split over 2 novels, called Interference. And yeah, basically, it's a multi-Doctor story, 8th Doctor and 3rd Doctor, and the third Doctor dies in the wrong place. The Doctor does not regenerate due to meeting the giant spider in Planet of Spiders.
Okay.
He regenerates elsewhere under different circumstances, and that sets up a whole big plot arc in the Eighth Doctor adventures.
Yeah, I mean, how would the Eighth Doctor come to be the Eighth Doctor? If
And this is the slight problem.
Yeah.
After interference, this writer threw one of his sissy fits, stormed off, and so the BBC books were left with this kind of like, what the fuck do we do with this sort of thing? Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, from what I can gather, behind the scenes in that era was a challenging time, and you certainly didn't need divas like this kind of pissing in the sandpit and then walking off. Because, yeah, the full problems with it are never really explored, but it is the launch of one of the arcs of the Eighth Doctor era in books. And yeah, the Eighth Doctor era in audios is all about paradoxes to start off with. Yeah, I've sung the praises of Storm Warning before. Storm Warning was the first time Big Finish managed to get Paul McGann to do an audio as the Eighth Doctor. And it started a story arc that ran and ran and ran. The first one, Storm Warning, was written by a guy called Alan Barnes. And the story is that they say, oh yeah, you write it, and then further down the line we'll get someone else to deal with the resolution of it and everything.
That never works out.
Further down the line, guess who they gave the task of writing the first big resolution to the paradox to?
Oh, please don't tell me it's who I think it is.
Alan Barnes. No, it was, yeah.
Okay.
And basically, yeah. It's not the world's most coherent paradox thing. It's not the world's most kind of carefully thought out thing. But it's essentially what happens when the Doctor takes on a companion who he really shouldn't have taken on.
Well, I mean, we've had a few of those, and they turn out to be fairly fun storylines.
This was the first series was 4 releases, second series was 6. You then had the big 40th anniversary special called Zagreus, and then it went off into some weird and wonderful realms. But the effects of that arc can still vaguely be felt to this day. And I said, Zagreus was their 40th anniversary special. We've just had the 60th anniversary.
Yeah.
Charlie is one of the best companions Big Finish ever created. I would say she's the second best companion they did.
Nice.
Beaten only by the wonderful Professor Evelyn Smythe, played by the much-missed Maggie Stables.
Yeah.
But yeah, Charlie is still around. There is another Charlie release literally coming out next week from Big Finish.
Oh. Excellent.
Yeah. So.
Or last month if you're watching this, when you're watching this.
And to finish, early on in the Big Finish era, around about the time that Charlie started actually, they did a story called Colditz. Which was a one-off paradox type story set around the prison camp, of course, not going to say too much about the plot. I'm definitely not going to say too much about the sound design, which is a little bit iffy. They tried new people for it, and it went a bit wrong.
Yeah.
But Colditz, yeah, they did it early on, and everyone thought, well, it's a so-so paradox type story. Nothing ever was mentioned of it again till about 10 years down the line when they thought, oh, what should we do a sequel to? What was that really beloved story that everyone ripped to shreds when it was released? I know, let's do a sequel to that. Oh, God.
Of course.
And again, the ripples that come from Colditz, and then the stuff that then went on still kind of crop up in the range to this day.
Right.
And funnily enough, one of the characters involved in that ripple of arc and everything is also in the Charlie story, that comes out next week or 3 weeks ago when you listen to this.
Right.
So I figured that, yeah, everyone says, oh, New Who is obsessed with kind of timey-wimey and stuff, and it's a Moffat thing. No.
No.
They may not have made a big thing about it, but Classic Who and the expanded universe have done time travel stuff, not quite since day one, but certainly since season 2.
Oh, right. Yeah.
They're not always coherent, they're not always consistent. As I said, Ghost of N-Space is a bizarrely bad story, but the time travel aspect of it is very well worked out.
Well, we did discuss one of the best paradox-heavy Doctor Who stories in our comedy episode.
Remind me.
The Curse of Fatal Death.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
That is the best paradox Doctor Who ever. I mean, because it was just done perfectly.
And you know who wrote that, don't you?
So, that's one trick pony. I mean,
one trick pony.
He got it done right that time.
So
he should just stick to comedy. Let's just put it that way.
Really
if he did
should,
comedy, I think he'd be a lot more successful.
So, Mr. Raccoon.
Yes.
What say? Because we've lost our third wheel.
Right. Right.
So what can we pick for our topic that's going to drive him nuts?
Oh, and I was just thinking that while I was thinking, because I don't pick next month's topic until about halfway through the episode, as I'm just like kind of absorbing what we're talking about, and recalling things and getting my Doctor Who, head in its right space.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to go to a character that we have not talked about on any episode yet, really. And he's a very polarizing character. He's possibly a villain, possibly a sort of good guy. I have his seal.
Oh, Rassilon.
Yes, we're going to go with Rassilon for the next month's episode. I really kind of always wanted to do this episode, and I think I'm ready to do it. I think let's do it, because he's an interesting character.
Oh. This is gonna be expanded universe.
Oh yeah,
go.
There's stuff in it for you. Expanded universe. There's some very good canon television episodes with Rassilon.
Yeah.
I think he's a good character. He's an interesting character, and like I said, villain, hero. It's really hard to tell with him. And I think he's both, truthfully.
And I think it's going to get a lot grayer for you next month.
Yeah, with the expanded universe stuff that I don't know about.
Definitely Rassilon. Oh, boy.
Yeah. I think
you have no idea what can of worms you have just opened.
Oh, I kind of have a hint about the kind of worms I've just opened up. But, yeah. Mike and I will do the television stuff, and you can fill us in with all the good expanded universe stuff.
Will do, because believe me, it is way more weird than anything.
I can only imagine, because like I said, the canon television stuff is just way too freaking weird. I mean, if you don't know who Rassilon is, in the next month, go read some stuff about Rassilon. Like I said, really trippy dude.
And I'm going to bite my tongue until next month. Because, this is deep lore.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's the deepest of lore.
Excellent, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us on another journey through time and space with the Doctor. Remember, you can support the show by liking and subscribing on YouTube or subscribing on Buzzsprout for as little as $3 a month. You can also send us an email at 3dowho@gmail.com or a text from 3dowho.buzzsprout.com. The link is at the top of every episode's show notes. Follow us on Blue Sky, 3dowho.bluesky.social, and on Facebook at facebook.com/3dowho. James, any final words?
It's not what you do, it's the way that you do it, unless you've already done it and you're telling yourself how to do it, in which case you've done it, so the way that you do it is the way that you've done it to do it.
Makes perfect sense. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed Joy to the World. Even if we didn't enjoy all of it.
Oh, a lot of people did. Do not get me wrong, it got very mixed reaction on social media. Some people absolutely love it.
I watched a little bit of it, of the back and forth on Blue Sky and on Facebook, and it's one of those episodes you either loved it or hated it, and I mean I'm kind of in the middle of that pack, because
same here.
There were things I loved about it, things I hated about it.
Yeah,
it's Moffat.
Yeah,
and like I said, he every once in a while he'll hit one little sweet spot that'll make you think, oh, this is not that bad. I can live with this. Anyways, till next month, everyone. We'll see you.